That's the key. We want people to get paid, and we want developer experience to be great and player experience to be great. When we look at Bitcoin as a whole, the main goal is trying to make sure it's providing value to people. That's one of the things I love about the BSV community is it's very focused on utility.
Hey everybody, welcome to Hashing It Out. I'm your host, Becky Legiro, and I'm here today with Keith LaForce of Haste Arcade. He's a technical co-founder. Keith, thank you so much for being here today. It's a pleasure to see you. And I'm really excited about what you guys are doing at Haste. You're making big waves in the gaming industry and also in the BSV blockchain space, of course. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. And I think today the main purpose of our chat is to talk to all the game developers out there because you have a new and exciting opportunity for them. But before we get to your SDK that is now live and ready to rock, I wanted to first of all tell our audience that what I think is super cool about Haste is that you guys have created new revenue streams for not only just players, but for affiliates and game developers who, like I said, we're here to talk to you today. And this is all using the micropayment functionality of the BSV blockchain in particular, which makes all of this possible. And you've taken this tech and you've used it to do something really innovative, new, and exciting. So first of all, Keith, can you tell us what your background is in games development and what made you choose to join the Haste team?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, it's kind of funny. I don't have a strong background in game development. I've always been, I don't have a strong professional background. So I've actually been kind of a lifelong technical consultant. So I helped grow a consulting firm recently and help sell that organization. But I've always been an amateur game developer, and I've been involved with that really since high school. That's kind of an age-old story. I think, people, a lot of young teenage boys at least get into programming because they're interested in games and interested in being a game developer. I mean, for any 15-year-old, like, how great does that sound? I get to sit around and make video games all day. So I really started researching it back then and just started reading books, which, in today's day and age is not as popular as it was back then, meaning it was physical books. So I had these giant books that I would kind of walk around with. And just read them. Got really into the technical side. Now, I eventually went on to get more into web development and those kind of things, but I've always done kind of game programming on the side. Again, nothing professional, but just the problems that it presents, I find really interesting. And that's kind of how I really got involved. At its core, I like solving hard problems, and gaming certainly has a lot of problems to solve as well. As far as the Haste team, so I actually have a twin brother, Eric LaForce, and both of us are going to be at CoinGeek New York. If the viewers of this are there, definitely walk up to us and introduce yourselves. We'd love to hear from folks. But Eric and I have been working with Dan and Joe, the other two co-founders, for a number of years on a completely different business. And they came to us back in around December, early January, and presented the first alpha game, the original Haste game. And at the time, when my brother came over and told me about it, I was interested right away. Like, it was one of those ideas that you kind of look at and you say, that's really simple, but I can see people getting over enthusiastic about something like that, where it's like, I can make money by playing a game and the game is super simple. I'm just tapping a dot. That's great. I don't have to invest a lot of time. I have a young family, and as much as I love playing games, I don't have as much time as I used to play those games. So, certainly for a lot of casual gamers, you want games that don't take hours and hours to play. You want games that take a few minutes. And really the virality of that notion of micropayments with the simplicity of the game, it got me hooked right away. Like I said, I was a consultant for a long time, and I've seen a lot of ideas. And this was one of the few where I said, I have to be involved with that. It wasn't a matter of like when or if, it was like, I have to go do this because it's just so compelling to me.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good sign, Keith.
Yeah.
Really, really great. And I think the word hooked caught my attention there, because I know that in a presentation you made for a BA event in New York City, you were saying that the gaming industry is broken. And I think the point you were trying to get at is that the games aren't sticky. Players, they check them out and then they're out the door, a few weeks later. And that's not really the kind of a business model I guess we'd really want to have. But can you elaborate on why you say that the gaming world is broken, and how does the instant leaderboard payout functionality of your games help solve this problem?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the gaming industry in of itself, it's really interesting to watch from the outside, because I read a lot of blogs, I read a lot of content around people that are professional game developers, and you hear horror stories of essentially the crazy hours that people have to work to get these games just out the door. The next Call of Duty game, they're essentially churning through developers trying to meet deadlines that are unrealistic. That's pretty common in a lot of software, but it's almost a pandemic, excuse the word, in the gaming industry itself. And they're building games that do last, but they don't last that long. You think about your traditional single player game. I play a game, takes me a few weeks. I generally don't go back and play it again, because I'm moving on to the next thing. I'm going to move on to the next game and the next game and the next game, because there isn't something there that's ultimately keeping me. When we think about the notion of ILP, that makes it very interesting to me. And that's what makes it sticky. This notion of, I have a reason to go back because I want to continue to compete. I want to, the payment's nice. Like, I love the idea of casual gamers actually making a revenue out of this, but it's really the competitiveness that makes it really interesting to me. Even the simple Haste game, you tap a dot, you get 500 milliseconds. Well, someone else comes in and gets 490. Then you want to get 480, then 470. And you just continue to kind of go down the ladder, and it makes you want to come back because you see that people are beating your score, and it's on a global landscape. So there's just a lot of involvement. And again, I think that stickiness is what makes ILP different, and ultimately will make it better for game developers to build these ILP games.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I know you said that it's not the main reason, but players do have a new revenue stream if they're able to place well on that leaderboard. And then also, I'll just quickly mention that affiliates too, because if you have a referral program, which is also very cool, so you can make money that way. But we want to talk about how game developers can take advantage of a new revenue stream by joining what you're doing over at Haste Arcade and taking advantage of the SDK. So can you tell me, first of all, about the SDK project? When was it ready for developers? And when did you guys decide, we're going to create a platform for other people to get creative and jump on this bandwagon? How did that all happen?
Sure. I think I'll start with the win. So we actually decided that probably back in late February, early March. In product development, you're essentially looking for whether people validate the idea. So we were able to validate the notion of ILP with the BSV community and see that people really did want to play it. And it wasn't just us, in an echo chamber thinking this is a great idea. People really want to play, and they kept coming back to play more. At that point, we looked around the team, and again, we're not professional game developers. And so we said, okay, we can try to churn out more games, but is that really the best model to follow? Or is this something we can share with the world and have people that are very good at making games come in here and create new revenue streams for themselves? And so that's when the notion of the arcade was really born. And that's actually when my brother Eric and I really decided to go full time. So at that point, we put in our 2 weeks notice, quit our job, said, we're just not going to get paid for a while. This idea is too compelling. Let's go do it. And we started building the arcade and the SDK back in, it was probably late May, early June timeframe. Took some planning before that, started really hitting the code hard back then. The arcade's made up of a couple of components. It's made up of the arcade itself, which is a discovery platform for games, so where the players will go. Then we have a developer portal where aspiring game developers, professional game developers, AAA gaming companies can go to and sign in and essentially create that developer account. This gives them all the security keys that they need to ultimately integrate with the platform and certainly the ILP concept itself. That's been ready now for, I'll say in beta form for the past couple of weeks. We have a couple of game devs that are working with us right now, just kind of working out the kinks, but it's available publicly. People could go download the code and ultimately start looking at it and playing with it. And certainly if you're listening and you're interested in that, please feel free to hit anyone up on the Haste team, and we'll make sure we get you connected to us and ultimately into the code base.
Great. And Keith, I remember when Joe said that he had these two amazing guys that were going to come full time. I remember when he told me that. So it's really nice to see it all come full circle. And for just to be sure our audience understands, and for the game developers that are watching, can you just walk us through the revenue stream that they will be having access to if they decide to create games with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think from a conceptual perspective, it's really straightforward. And that's what makes ILP so interesting, is the simplicity of it. Everyone kind of at this point that's been following us understands the player side of this, where I insert my coin and Duro, and then I get something back if I score on the leaderboard. The developer side's actually even simpler. For a developer, every play that someone does for one of your games, you will get a portion of those funds. So we track all the leaderboard management. We track all the integration with the wallet, which in this case is Handcash. We handle all of that work for the developer. All they have to worry about is building a really good game and ensuring that game can be successful. And the way they can do that is they know I don't have to be dependent upon all these other things that I don't like. So as a game developer, for example, I don't like ads. I don't like that model. I've never liked that model. I always feel dirty if I have to work through an ad model for something that's a product that most people aren't going to look at. Ads have a great place and time for things that they are. I just don't think games are that place. But the way the system is set up today, certainly for indie game devs, that's really the only way you can make money. So for ILP to know that every time someone plays your game, you're going to get some revenue, that's a really powerful story. And it scales well. If you build a game that's not great, you're not going to get a lot of plays, and the revenue will reflect that. If you build a Flappy Birds, if you build a Call of Duty and millions of people will play it, you're going to see serious revenue from that.
Amazing. And what are some of the tools that you're providing these game developers with?
Yeah, sure. So I'll talk a little bit about the kind of the feature set, and then if you don't mind, I'll actually get a little technical for the folks in the audience that want it. So from a feature set perspective, what the developer portal and the SDK provide, it provides a few things out of the box. First and foremost is authentication. So when we think about the arcade and we think about these games, we want it to be very seamless for players. So if they move from one game to another, we don't want them to have to log into a different system, create a new account, et cetera. And essentially game developers don't want to have to deal with that anyway. Why build an authentication system? I built it literally 1,000 times. And it's silly to rebuild every time. So I just want to focus on my games. It's not a competitive advantage. The other part of the authentication is the integration with the wallet. Handcash is a great product. They provide a great SDK. Their documentation is fantastic. But at the end of the day, every game developer shouldn't have to go reinvent the wheel and provide that integration. So we manage that process for the developer, so they don't even have to understand what Handcash is or how it works. So for developers that aren't in the BSV community or aren't in the Bitcoin community, trying to make it as simple as possible for them to integrate with, and ultimately make sure people get paid. That's the key. We want people to get paid, and we want developer experience to be great and player experience to be great. When we look at Bitcoin as a whole, the main goal is trying to make sure it's providing value to people. That's one of the things I love about the BSV community is it's very focused on utility. It's not focused on speculation. It's not focused on anything else. It's as a person that has built a lot of products, if you're not providing value to people, it's not going to get used. So let's build something that provides value. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I went off on a little bit of a tangent there. Okay. So if we come back to the feature set, it's authentication, the integration with the wallet, the management of the leaderboard, the scoring itself. So we manage all the scores and how they ultimately get paid out. There's currently two kind of scoring models, highest to lowest, lowest to highest. So if you've got a game based on speed, you want as fast as possible. But certain games, it's about points and the number of points you get. So we allow the developers to kind of configure that within the system. The other pieces that we provide, so we've got, I got to go through the list again. We got authentication, payment, leaderboard management, score management. And I feel like I'm missing one more thing, but off the top of my head, like that provides a lot of value. The game developers we've been working with, it's been great to see that they, certainly they ran into kinks along the way, but because we're kind of brand new, but at the end of the day, they just focused on the game. They built a game and it works with our ILP system.
I love that. And I think the point that you made that people don't necessarily have to be blockchain experts or BSV diehards in order to participate in this is a really important one. And that's another thing I love so much about what you guys are doing. You're making something that the world can use, not just this little micro community that has all this knowledge in how blockchain works. So this is really, really pretty amazing. And one other point I wanted you to make for the viewers here, especially for those game developers that might be maybe more focused on the online gambling industry as opposed to the gaming industry. I just wanted you to provide some numbers to let people know just how much the gaming, the arcade games, this kind of thing, how much that world is growing right now and where you see those numbers going in the future.
Yeah, sure. So the gaming market it's beyond gigantic. There's not really a word to even describe it in a lot of ways. 1/3 of the world plays games. Yeah. That's how big the market is. And most of those people are casual gamers. They're not people that are playing professionally. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but if you look at the number of professional gamers, it's got to be in the 0.0001% of people get paid enough money to professionally play games. That's harder to get into than the NFL. That's how competitive it is. And so when we think about that and just there's a lot of market there that is being tapped by AAA game studios, et cetera. But again, they're building games that last for a little while and then they get replaced by something else. And not to say that ILP games won't follow the same pattern, because certainly they will, but we think the longevity of a single game is going to be substantially longer than a traditional game. And when we think about the gambling side of this, we're not building a gambling system. Certainly in the future, that might be something we're interested in, but for, viewers just to know a little about me, I love gambling. It's one of my favorite things to do. I love sports gambling. I love going to Vegas. I love craps and blackjack and all of those things. And they're fun to play, but there is risk inherent in it, obviously. And these games are skill based. The better you are at a thing, the better off you're going to be. And I think that really speaks to the ethos of Haste as an organization. Mm-hmm. Haste Arcade is a product that we are building, but ILP is really what we care about. Like when we think about our ethos and what we're building, we're trying to build something that if you are good at something, you should get rewarded for that, whether that's playing games, whether that's, being a good Samaritan, whether that's recycling, there's so many things that people could be incentivized around that they're already doing anyway. And we want to be able to change people's lives by giving them these new revenue streams to do things that they really enjoy, they're really good at, or they were going to do anyway.
Amazing. And like I've said about 5 times throughout this chat we've been having, I love what you're doing at Haste. It's so cool. And I think that what I also really want to do here is encourage everyone watching this to please either attend Coin Geek New York in person if that's possible, or to tune in online, because I know that Haste will be there. And Keith, yep. I'm sure you have some juicy things that you can't really reveal just yet, but can you give us some sort of an idea of what we can expect from Haste and CoinGeek New York, and why people really should tune into your session?
Yeah, sure. So we've got a great session planned with a couple of other organizations built by gamers, the Unbounded Enterprise folks, and Handcash. So we're going to be doing kind of a group session. The goal of that session is to really start to set the stage for what we've been doing as organizations and how we've been partnering together to build something that again provides value to people, but more importantly, provides value to people outside of the BSV community. We believe in and love the BSV community, and we think that it is certainly going to be taking over the world. And the way you do that is you build products that mainstream people want to use and don't have to think about the scary Bitcoin or blockchain concepts that are there. So, we're going to be announcing the arcade officially. We're going to be looking to officially launch it. We want people to start playing games while we're there in New York. I've got a couple of games, new games coming out for that. And we're just excited to get people to see it and ultimately try it out. And really looking for the BSV community to help us, because if we want to make it go mainstream, there's a lot of work still left to make that happen. But you have to start somewhere, and the BSV community has been so great to us so far that we want to just continue to give them stuff and have them give us feedback in return.
Absolutely amazing. I think the keyword here is opportunity for game developers. Please, guys, tune in at CoinGeek New York, because there's going to be some nice surprises and information for you there. Keith, honestly, this has been such a pleasure. Keep up the awesome work you're doing over there, because you're really paving the way for gaming and for the BSV ecosystem. And for that, we thank you.
Thank you so much, Becky. And yeah, one more time, if you're a game developer and you're in New York, just walk up to us and start talking. We want to hear from you. The more games we get in the arcade, the better the platform is going to be, and the better for the BSV community it's going to be. And we just want to hear from you. I'm not right about everything, so if you disagree, come tell me. Hey, Keith, that's a terrible idea. You should do this, and let's hash it out, because that's again how we're going to build something great as a community.
Yes, and thank you guys for watching Hashing It Out. Keith, thank you. Thank you guys for watching. This is Becky Leggero for CoinGeek.com.
Time to redefine industries. Time for the BSV blockchain. It's about time, New York City.